Okay, the bell is about to be rung.
Ready? Ready for it?
Oh, thank you.
Take off fancy like.
Yes, yes.
Okay, now
All
we're
right.
good.
All right, kids, get
Now we're
ready.
good. Now we're good.
Get yourselves seat belted in.
I think we need a new clipper, honey.
Oh, okay, I'll go on Amazon. We'll have it tomorrow.
We'll have it in 10 minutes.
We could have it today. So, tossing the towel
I
around.
know, like the unruly. Checklist, here we go.
Yes, yes, thank you. Appreciate it, appreciate it. And could you hand me my cocktail again, please?
Of course.
This is full service.
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, thank you. Yes,
And get free kisses too.
Giving me attention.
Very
To the pups.
inappropriate. Okay, I'm gonna do the back.
All right, here we go. Ready, kids? Hang on.
I'm not buzzing them. What is that?
She's good, she's good. She's fully balanced. She's got her stuff together. This isn't her first rodeo.
Right?
All right, what do you think, kids? All right, Bubs.
Look at Daddy. How's it look?
Ready? All right, going down.
I've always told Liz and Iris when I was comfortable enough to share with them that I always, if I'm having a bad day, I pray in my head that I can be Liz and Iris happy. And they are effervescent, exuberant. We've had conversations when I've shared with them that I think their energy is fantastic and they always look on the bright side. When they get together, I feel like they finish each other's sentences. Sometimes they finish my sentence. It's just they're so engaged when you're having a one-on-one conversation with one or both of them. And never on the down. And every once in a while somebody will be on having a bad day or overshare something with them that's unpleasant. And Liz and Iris have a way of saying, but you're where you're meant to be. And this too shall pass.
Happy birthday to you. We need you, Lizzie. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Sarah. Happy birthday to you.
When I shared with Liz and Iris that I wish to be Liz and Iris happy, they say, oh, don't think that it's not real life for everybody, because real life hits everybody. But when you see them out and about, nobody can marsh their mellow.
is up in this place. Magical zoo.
Right? Liz and Iris is magical too.
I met Liz and Iris when I was first employed as a program manager at the Arts Council, and Liz and Iris had a little gallery space on Main Street, and I had heard about their gallery and I went down to visit it, and it was so fun and eclectic and neon and fairies, and it was just such a different gallery experience than I had ever seen. And they were as exuberant that I was there as they were to have their gallery space. And I didn't really know much about them, but I remembered meeting them, and they were so vibrant. They're all cool and interesting experiences when you spend time with Liz and Iris. Some of the funny stories I can't tell, but
I was born in Philadelphia at the Methodist Hospital in Philadelphia, South Philly. On my birth, I might have been a Virgo, but my mother went in for a doctor's visit. She's pregnant with me. It's August 20th, and the doctor says, Sophie, I'm going to Wildwood for 2 weeks. So if you want me to deliver your baby, I can induce you at lunch. She goes, okay. So at lunchtime, I was induced and I became a Leo baby on August 20th. Ready or not, here I come in. And that was in Philly. I must have been like, I'm gonna say like 5 maybe. I don't know, I was old enough, 4, 5. And I was on the street, and it's me, my brother, and my Uncle Sabby. We kind of grew up together, not too far apart. My uncle and my mother are 17 years apart. So my uncle wasn't that far away distance-wise with us, and we living with my grandmother at the time, my grandparents, and we were all hanging out. So my uncle is now into filming. So he's a filmmaker, so he's on the thing, and he's filming stuff. So we're outside on the sidewalk out front of the house, and my brother comes up to me, and I had this big hat. It was in the winter, so I had the hat with the big pom-pom on my head, and it folded up, and he come over to me, and he grabs my hat, and he pulls it over my eyes, and I take my hat, and I pull it back up, and we continue on doing what he's doing, and then he comes up, and he does it again. He pulls it over my head, and I pull it up. That third time, he comes over, he pulls it over my face. I pull it up, I look around, I see where my out is, and I go up to him and I punch him in the face, and I run to my grandmother's step, up the steps, in the door, and I start yelling. So I was able to get that punch in. Like I finally stood up and said, I'm not taking it anymore, you know, and I ran in the house and I told Grandma, and he was screaming. But it was on film, and my uncle can't find that anymore, but it was a pivotal part. Like where my brother, I just had enough. He did it 3 times and I punched him in the face with the hat. It was this big pom-pom hat, I never forget. It's like brown colored and had green stripes, and it had this pom-pom. So big on the top, but it was so long, like you had to fold it up enough to pull it all the way over my face. So that's the story of the hat, and me taking the stance against my brother, punching him in the face. You know, that's funny.
She was always very competitive and very smart, and never took anything from anyone. Like her older brother would antagonize her and she would go right after him. Never took any stuff from anybody, never. She had she always had self-respect and took care of herself. And I depended on her a lot as a child because she always helped me.
We moved from Philly to Washington Township, which they kind of called Little Italy because it's right. People from South Philly move right over the bridge into Washington Township because literally it's like it drives right in over the bridge and you drive right in on 42. I was the kid from Philly, so I was a little, I caused the joker in class. Always making the kids laugh. I knew like how far you can go just for laughs and not actually do any harm. And that was fun. And that's where I grew up. And then in Whitman Square, the first time when we moved there in that summer, I saw a swimming pool because I was from Philly. I really didn't go swimming. It was the hydrants. So I saw the swimming pool and I said, I want to join the swim team. And my mother's like, you don't know how to swim? You've never seen this. It was right across the street from our house though, in Jersey, where we moved to. And when summer came, I'm like, oh my God, I want to swim. So the instructor, I guess, or the coach for the little kids, she goes, all right, Lizzie, jump in and swim across. So I said, all right, I've been watching them. I've never seen a pool. I jump in the pool and I start swimming across because I watched the kids. And my mother's yelling, she doesn't know how to swim. What are you doing? She can't swim.
I didn't think she knew how to swim, so I was at the pool and she jumped into the water and she swam across the pool. And Mrs. Dunn was there and she said, oh my God. She was a natural. Like she made the swim team just by swimming across the pool. And her times were so great. She just jumped into the pool.
And she's saying, well, what is she doing? She's swimming, and like she's doing okay. My mother's freaking out. But back then you had to get all your Red Cross certifications before you can join the swim team. So like in a day I went and passed all my classes so I can join the swim team through the Red Cross.
So this is our third year that we've been involved with Ladybug Festival, which is a women's art festival.
Festival.
Music, and we're doing the visual end. So we have some antique mannequins or womanekins. And we are going to gesso them and paint them with the energy of
the festival.
The women's festival.
Because it's all women, female performers.
We do have a name, and it is personification and objectification. So the mannequins are obviously things, and all women are obviously people.
Yes.
And so that'll probably fit into it, and why we chose to use figures.
For this year's festival.
And we're going to be completely silent.
During the festival.
Yes.
And that ties into
its own meaning.
Yeah.
And figure it out for yourselves.
Yeah.
The womenkins have no heads on them. I think one has one broken hand.
And a pair of legs.
Yeah, so they don't have much action.
But they've traveled with us.
And we're going to be silent while painting them.
We've traveled with them. They've been to our art galleries.
Oh, they've gone all over.
And they reside on our porch, so anybody that travels by, they know the lady on the porch.
Yes, and they've been a good form for a lot of textile art.
Yes. So we're looking forward to a great Ladybug Festival.
It's gonna be awesome.
Yes.
Yay.
Yay.
My father is from North Shore, Oahu, Haleiwa, and my mother is from City Girl, Honolulu and Hawaii Kai. And they were married there, and they lived with my Grandma Raines, in Haleiwa after they got married. And then they moved to LA County shortly before my brother and I were born. So I grew up between Hawaii and the Mojave Desert in Southern California. I was the first female wrestler in an all-male league when I got to high school, and 2 other girls shortly joined after. They couldn't stop me, so I worked hard, and I was first trained JV, and I also did cross country and track. I played cornet, trumpet, and piano, French horn.
Iris is my cousin, my first cousin on my mother's side. We lost touch for a long time, and the only news I heard about my cousin over the years was through my grandmother. And when she passed in 2006 is when Iris and I reconnected. So I had known that Iris was a lesbian through my grandma, because I had come out already, and you know, we didn't have anyone in our family really, both of my dad and my mom's side, for me. But with talking to my grandma, you know, I knew that she had found somebody. I finally had another, you know, family member who was in my community, you know. I remember meeting her for the first time and thinking, I'm not alone, you know. I'm not the only homosexual in this family anymore, you know. And although I knew it, it was made real, you know, when I met the 2 of them together. I feel like, you know, I appreciate her sense of spirituality, you know, and I live a very similar sort of life. My life is dependent on spirituality, as I mentioned earlier. So everything I do in my world, everything in my universe is around my idea of connected to this universe.
My Nana, she was a seamstress, and she also was very resourceful. She had little organized plastic bags by colors, and bottle caps, and flip tabs, and you name it. She queen of recycling, and she would make all these crafts out of them. She would make belts and bags out of the different plastic bags, and she crocheted. She was an amazing seamstress. And so I learned sewing at a young age, and the textiles. I was always into the textiles. I would say she's definitely was inspiration with the making things out of things that people threw away. And that's important to our art, and always was important to my art, is the reuse of materials and the drawing attention to something that other people ignore. And these are all reclaimed tiles and found stones and bricks from old house that was taken down on Main Street, and Goodwill tiles, you know, like. Even our shopping is mostly secondhand, third-hand, gifted. It's good for the community, it's good for the earth. So one of our, example of reusing material is, this was, I guess, a coverlet or a tablecloth, and this was some curtains, and they were at the gallery. They were up in the magical gallery, and they went to all our places, and they went to a whole bunch of festivals, and they hung in our house. And then the time came for them to be rebirthed. So we cut them all up, or I cut them all up. Although Liz does participate in this sometimes. And this one was worn for Maryland Arts Day, which happened to be on Valentine's Day. So of course we needed hearts, because I was being a mad hearter. And I'll tell you about art we brought. It was a game to Annapolis this year. But it has to be worn like this. So, this is the Mad Harder hat. And we needed a little bit more. So, we cut up the curtains and made a beautiful ball that the kitties have left alone. And upstairs, I have a skirt and a hand muff and a capelet. And then these are going to be little leg warmers. So it's going to be a fabulous artistic suit for formal occasions only, of course. Ta-da!
Because sometimes see her as like a good witch, a positive energy I can draw on, you know. She's just magical.
I ended up on the East Coast because I was accepted to Bryn Mawr College. So I went to, that's right outside of Philadelphia. I always did art. I cannot remember a memory when I didn't do art. I was rather introverted growing up. So I always had a sketch pad and I'd draw whatever was around me, and you know, your nose in a book or a sketch pad and nobody bothers you. So as a watcher, sort of, I liked natural settings and buildings and just normal settings. I would enjoy painting like pieces of cars and stuff like that. I did study fine art while attending Bryn Mawr College, and then continued with small commissions. Started out with small commissions for on-campus groups and teaching at a safe space for LGBTQ in Philadelphia.
She definitely is outside of the box. She's very unorthodox. You really have to think abstractly, but I think they're beautiful. I think it's because of the connection I have with her that I'm able to see her art as it is. They both have that sense of, I mean, it's like on the same wavelength. It's just, it's hard to explain what that vibration is, you know, but it's definitely there. It's definitely present, and anyone who's woke or open to it will see it, you know. It's just magical. They're both like fairies. This one's a little bit more stern.
Dragon Thrones is a theatrical event put on by the Game Theater, and it is rather unique because it is part sort of dinner theater that goes on for 3 days, and part mega game and part LARP, live action role playing. And we got really excited about it when I heard of it through an alumni group.
This will be the third Dragon Thrones 3.
We've attended all of the Dragon Thrones events.
As the same characters.
Yes. It's cohesive.
Lizard and Flower. I'm Lizard.
I'm Flower.
We're the creatures of the castle.
Yes.
They come from all across the country. So
And other countries.
and other
actually.
countries. They fly in.
It's,
18 and up.
yes, all adults. And
So we have all age range.
there are people that are hardcore LARPers. There's people that are into historical reenactments. There's people that are into
Brand new.
mega gaming. And there's people that just want an all-inclusive weekend with their honey or alone.
Everyone
it's a
is
cool event.
in character, so you get this world develops and is alive because everybody's in their characters, and it just continues on throughout the whole entire weekend.
And everyone's actions influence the plot.
The story.
So it's kind of like you're all in a play, and you don't have any lines, and you just choose what your character really wants to be, even though you're given some guidelines if you need them.
You have some personal goals and team goals, and
global
goals.
Just have fun goals.
You have royalty that are dressed for royalty, and they have their houses, and they have colors that represent their different houses, so they're all in their colors. Our costumes, we kind of...
Well, we're part of the Citadel of Mirrors.
Yeah,
so,
of the castle.
Yeah, so we have the magical mirrors change our costumes like every 2 seconds, so we're dashing every which way, putting on different costumes.
Yes, different colors. We don't have any colors.
Some people are like doctorates in theater, and some people are just like inner thespian, and at any moment you can make the most dramatic
scene happen, and people
putting on balls and having like duels to the death. No actual weapons. No.
Yes,
you know, like,
and theatrics and falling down and poison.
No special effects, but everyone understands. It's like
you get enthralled.
No stage theater. Everywhere is theater. It's a very exciting
and in the summer,
endeavor.
Yeah, in the summer you get to stay on campus, like in the castle.
In the castle.
So there's no end, and it all comes together because everyone has to have that want to have a successful, creative, theatrical presentation.
There was a group of magic users that misused their magic, and so they don't exist anymore. They made the tree of death. So all the magic in the realm is now dying. Now we are magic, so we were part of the mirrors. We put ourselves into the mirrors to make the magic of Bryn Mawr, of the Citadel of Mirrors. So we are very old and we forget things, and we were stuck forever young. Now, as magic is dying from the realm, we're oblivious to it, but we don't look just quite the same as we used to.
And magic seems to be wonky.
Yeah, yo-yo doesn't work as well as it used to, and my trumpet doesn't play as well all the time. But we're still happy, and we remember who we are because
we have friends.
I have flowers to remember me. I'm Flower.
And I have a lizard.
To remember she's Lizard, and that helps.
It does. It does.
And we ran into someone that forgot who they were, and we suggested they put something on them to remind them. And
I can help them, but I don't remember.
So we're helpful.
There's friends.
Hi, friends. Hello. Do you need help?
Do you need help? And what are we talking about again?
The robe.
Oh, the robe.
Yes.
The robe.
Oh.
Well.
Is it pretty?
Is it pretty?
I think it is.
Oh.
I've seen it once before
you
it
did
was lost.
See it?
I did before it was lost. So it seems very powerful, but very pretty.
Pretty.
So, yes.
Yay.
Okay. Yay, we like pretty.
Yes. Well,
good.
thank you. And
have a lovely
Fare
day.
thee well.
Have fun.
And again, come and ask us.
I shall.
Hooray! I was in Philadelphia, and I was ready for love. I was ready for my one love. And so it was before the internet dating thing was a thing. So being gay, it was sort of almost like alternative sites to find someone. There's a discrepancy here. She says that she was a paid member of someonetokiss.com. I don't know what websites I was on, but it definitely wasn't that.
We have a discrepancy over the website here, okay? I had someonetokiss.com.
But somehow she got my profile, and she responded, and she was able to contact me.
And I came across Iris's picture online. So I'm like, okay, let me just send her a message. And you need premium to send a message, so I had to join premium.
She took selfies. She was a photographer, so she took selfies before they were a thing, because, you know, no phones on cameras, or no cameras on phones.
We corresponded back and forth for a while, but then she started calling me, and she would, I actually went out and bought a headset, because I'd go to sleep to her, like, reading a story to me. So I bought the headset so I didn't have to hold the phone. So I had the headset, and I would just go to sleep with the headset on.
I didn't know I was in love. I hadn't met her. But then she wouldn't answer. I'd be like, you asleep? Okay, good night. And that's how we would go to sleep when we were just corresponding. We were dating other people. So we did a little instant messaging, you know, time, and that moved on to phone calls, and this was several months sort of a correspondence relationship, emails.
She was supposed to come on Saturday, and I was in a work transition, so I'm like, well, if you want to come today, it was Thursday, I'm like, you can come today. She's like, okay.
We had planned it for the weekend, but I couldn't wait. Took a Greyhound down to Baltimore to meet her. And then it breaks down. So I'm in, I don't even know what state, I don't know what city. Later find out it's Wilmington, Delaware. Made some good friends. We were there for like 3 hours while they found another bus driver. Finally got to Baltimore at like 11 at night. And I was worried the whole time, you know, it's like a whole day trip. We could have been to Hawaii and back, you know.
She was on this bus forever. And she was coming to the Lexington market in Baltimore.
I was like, I've seen pictures of her, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna recognize her.
She was scared she wouldn't recognize me. And I guess I was too. I mean, we only corresponded. We saw the pictures online, you know what I mean? And then through the typing and then on the phone, but then that meeting in person is different.
I was getting off the bus. And I saw her through the window and was just done. I wanted to kiss her and tell her I loved her immediately. Of course, I'd be like, crazy stalker, so I didn't.
Brought her back, and we did art that day. We just started doing art.
Then it was Mother's Day weekend, so we didn't want the weekend to end. So she took me up to meet her mom and her whole Italian family. And we ended up going to the shore, and we stayed at Grandma's house. She made us French toast. And coming back from Grandma's house, it was the third day after meeting her. I asked her, walking back, I was like, what side do I put my flower on? Which in Hawaii, it's taken is your left side, and available or looking is your right side. I asked her that, she said put it on the left, and that was done. We took oaths 3 days after meeting each other, and that is that. She's my love.
It's a great story.
They're breaking me up.
So we took a map, and right in between Philly and Baltimore is Elkton. So we said, all right, well, that seems good. It's right in between. So if you're going to school in Philly, it's equidistant to your school as it is to my job. Perfect.
We started looking at houses, and the moment we walked in here, we said, love it. We wanted to pinch the town's little cheeks. It was adorable.
We put in the bid on the house, and we get the house.
I'd say it was meant to be. You know, we didn't do much research. It was just where we were supposed to be put, where the goddess put us.
We started out peddling our art, literally taking our art to the streets of Elkton on Main Street. We were new here. It was like so cute town, like pinch your cheeks. We like fell in love with the town. It was so cute. We loved our house, doing art. We wanted to get our art out into galleries and figuring out how to bring, like we do fairy art. When we came together, our art just changed, kind of, you know. So we're out there and we're showing art to the galleries, the Raimondi Gallery. And we went there with our art and we showed Gina, who's no longer with us, she passed. So, but she had the gallery there, and we put on a show there with her, over 100 pieces in her gallery, and we just, I mean, we filled her whole gallery. My whole family came up. It was like a big thing, but that was our big showing in Elkton. That was kind of our opening in Elkton.
So we went back to the Arts Council. That was our first stop with the big old stack of, we're like, hey, what's the next opening? How do we do this? And we became members, and we became regular contributors to their shows. And whenever they needed something, it just came known, you know, like, call us. If we're able to, we'll be there. And that's kind of our theme, is say yes and show up.
Once they came in the door, they never stopped supporting, experimenting, and encouraging some of their friends to come in. They brought us some jewelry artists. Initially thought we might be doing a mural, because they had done a mural in Wilmington that I had seen images of.
There was a commission to do a very large mural in an office building while office work was going on. So there was conference calls, and did a little watercolor sketch of what it would look like, you know, with the mural that they wanted, and we kind of worked with the colors, and they wanted us to do it, and it took us, what was it, 7 days? From cleaning to cleaning, working like a couple hours every day, and it was 9 feet tall and 20 some odd wide, and it's of the Wilmington waterfront. Kind of photorealistic, but also a little bit impressionistic. And so that got us started in Delaware a little bit more, even though we had done some teaching at some YMCAs, and we just say yes and show up. We did so much.
Debbie Schwartz from 2nd and Loma. We're a historic block in downtown Wilmington. We are involved in the Wilmington Art Loop, which is the first Friday of every month, and that's how I initially met Liz and Iris, who have displayed on our block multiple times, as well as been involved in our annual Ladybug Festival. They've painted a mural on our block, they've had art shows, they've painted mannequins outside during our festival. They've become an integral part of our community and our block. We are a firm believer in supporting the arts and local artists, and we always have a great time with Liz and Iris. They've become great friends, and they're just a lot of fun, besides being terrific artists and great people. The show that's currently hanging is a blacklight show, and when we had the showing, we had the lights out, black lights on, and though the pictures may look great today with the lights on, they look even more spectacular with the lights out. They generally show here once a year. We do the event every month. They've done everything from painting all the parking meters in Elkton, Maryland, to all kinds of fantastic things throughout the local tri-state area.
The public art project that we enlisted them to help with was the paint the parking meters. And we had children come up with the templates. We made templates for the parking meter, children decorated them, and then Liz and Iris recreated those images on the parking meters.
Somebody hit our cow. Someone hit it.
There is a committee at the Arts Council that chooses the designs from, they were sent out to the adopted kids, the foster kids, all the public schools, and through the Arts Council, all the designs, and then they came back, and then the committee approved ones, and that's where they came from.
Put their images to life. Hopefully they like them.
And gives them some ownership over their own community, which I think is very special. So when it's done in scribble crayon, we try to give it the scribble crayon feel, and when it's done very precisely in ink, we try to give it that precise ink feel. This is a precise design.
Oh, good.
And everything needs multiple layers too, because there's chip paint, and it's been well loved. And the taping of it, because then you need to tape out all the little openings that they're going to use for the keys, and make sure that coins will go in there.
Merlin crabs.
Yay!
Good job, hon.
They're very energetic and they're very electrifying, and it's interesting. They cross through a lot of barriers that a lot of people wouldn't step through.
My name is Connie Drummond, and I am the founder and the visionary behind Artscape for Lady C Productions. Because of the COVID-19, a lot of the venues started closing down, and the city of Wilmington decided that they were not going to do the art loop anymore. But I still had this business and I had this space, and I was talking to Debbie, who's the person that's in charge of the leasing office, and I told her I still, even at the 60% capacity, I still need to have stuff because, I need to keep my business going. So I told her, I said, it's really hard, to get artists because people are afraid to come out. So she says, wait a minute, I have a few people that I want you to meet. So she was gracious enough to connect me to Liz and Iris via email, and we conversed back and forth through email, and then they decided that they would bless Artscape with their exhibit. The first time we met, it was magic. We just clicked right away. I love their art and their energy, and you see what they've created. I think it was a divine intervention. And tonight's show is going to be amazing. We're actually running their show all month. This is going to be a great experience. This is the first time I've ever had 3 artist receptions for one set of artists, for the whole month. It's not connected to the art loop. It's called Artscape Fridays, and our first artist for, Artscape Fridays is Liz and Iris. one thing that I love about their art is that it comes from them, you know, as a couple, and that the two of them, you know, each piece, you know, they worked on each piece, you know, together. And it's just amazing that they can have that kind of connection and that kind of vibe. It's like when you look at their work, you actually feel it. So, you know, that's the greatest thing that I see about their work is that, you know, you can feel it when you look at it, you know, it means something.
There's hundreds of pieces around that I've seen. Almost always, Iris is kind of in the background of Liz's work. And Liz is kind of somewhere in the background or even in the forefront of Iris's work. The project that the girls are working on currently is for an outside garden deck, an outside garden feature along the side of the Arts Council building. This started as an idea several months ago between the coordinator of the Elkton Arts and Entertainment District, the Historical Society, and the Arts Council, which started out as just a walkway and maybe some lighting, and it has morphed into a walkway, a rock garden. There is now a floating deck. There will be a table and chairs. There will be the rock wall will have lighting. There will be overhead canopy lighting, and they last minute thought a cool feature would be to add some decorative artistic posts. This is, after all, the garden at 135, and we have to represent art and history. We saw some posts on a website, I think it might have been Pinterest, and we decided to ask Liz and Iris if they had any interest in painting one of them. There was going to be one post. Then we started to think how odd that would look for a deck with 4 corners to have one post. So we asked the girls if they would do 4 posts. And just for fun, we threw in a 5th post. So they are working on just random floral artistic features out of their head onto the posts, which will be installed on the deck within the week.
So we did the Pride series at Ladybug this one time. I think it was, wait,
2 years ago.
2 years ago. And we had these giant 3-foot by 3-foot canvases that our only idea is we're gonna have them Pride colors. And this grumpy old guy comes up and he looks at us and he's like, "It makes me happy. I don't know why. It just makes me happy."
It was awesome.
He didn't smile. But
it makes me happy.
We bewildered him with happiness.
I don't know why this does, but it makes me happy. I don't want to hear about chocolate.
This whole garden started out as just a few people. We wanted a walkway. It's predominantly female that work in this building. So I asked for grant money to have those lights that come on when you walk. Then the Historical Society had been offered a donation of bricks from a torn down like old school or something. So that coordination led to a brick path. It's old, the bricks are old, it's not in a straight line. So to soften that feature, we thought, okay, let's plant some flowers. So they looked at 6-foot long galvanized planters. Okay, so now we have a walkway and planters. There are some petroglyphs outside, which are rocks. And the director of the Arts and Entertainment District thought it'd be really cool if we tried to like anchor those rocks and make it a rock garden. Then the pea gravel feature was added. We thought to connect the pea gravel to the brick path, we would have mulch along the sides with the 6-foot galvanized tanks, and then we're like, we don't have an art feature. Well, one of the girls' husbands said, hey, a floating deck, I can do that. You know, no steps, no handicap, worry. So the deck was created, and then the last minute was the installation of the 4 posts and the 5th that will anchor it to the wall. So that's how the girls got hired, or not even, well, they will be compensated, but to paint art laurels on these posts. So one thing led to another, led to another. I sent them a text, hey, can you do it? It was just one. I'm like, well, how about 4? Gave them money for supplies, and they just come and go. They just come and go, and every time I come in, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's color. Now it's red, now it's blue, now there's a, you know, a leaf or a swirl. That's just one of the projects they work on for us.
Okay, so we go on fairy adventures, especially when we first moved here. And we try and get lost, and we see where we end up and what we see. And one day we were up in Pennsylvania. We had, you know, states are very close here. So we ended up in Pennsylvania.
We came upon this book place where the little leprechaun ran the store. And we went in and we met him, and he's like, oh, you guys have to meet Zane Campbell. We're like, oh. He's like, yeah, he lives in Elkton. We're like, okay, cool. And he's showing us things. Right on. And we're in the books. We're getting our books. It's old bookstore. We love our books. I still have my math books I bought there upstairs. So, cool place. Okay, every time he's not here. But okay, next time maybe he'll be here. So, we end up, our veterinarian was at an art show at a doctor's office on Main Street at a show where Zane was showing, and we're showing but at a different gallery on Main Street. So our veterinarian comes to us, oh, you have to come over and meet so-and-so artist, same guy now that Richard Beards from the book place in Oxford that I just said we stopped there, and he's like, oh, the leprechaun needs to meet. Okay, all right. So he goes, okay, he's going back. So we end up going over there. We arranged to meet up after, playing music, right? All right, Zane's playing. We begin singing along with Zane. We're hanging out, just hanging out after the art show, playing music and singing.
My name is Zane Campbell, and I met Liz and Iris, God, how many years ago was it, Liz and Iris? 10? At least, I think it was more than 10 years ago, because Sporty, I've known him 10 years. There was this English professor, he taught at Temple University in Philly for like, I think 50 years. Richard Beards, right? And he was a really interesting guy, and he had a little art gallery up in the town of Oxford, Pennsylvania, in the back of his bookstore. Now, he, you know, like I said, he's an English professor, and he taught, you know, literature, everything from the Beat Generation to the classics and everything else. And but he had this really cool bookstore in the middle of nowhere. I mean, cows and farms, and like nobody was ever in this bookstore, you know. But they had all these great books. And after I got to know him, I said, Richard, why do you even have this bookstore open? Like, nobody ever comes in here. He goes, I made $800 this morning online. I don't care if anyone comes in at all. Anyway, I got to know him, and he introduced me. He says, hey, you got to meet this couple, Liz and Iris.
The impression he gave of this artist was like, this is just like a vagabond. I move all over the place. Crazy person. And he brought out all these hand-sketched like little comics. We told him about our shop, and then he came in. This was Zane Campbell, him and his brother that is now passed, came into our shop, and they were like, whoa, I think we went back to the 60s, man. Like, this place is totally trippy. And then we always decorate out to the wazoo. They really liked the place. Hey, I'm having this art opening down the street. Once you're done with your art opening, come over and check out my stuff. So we're like, yeah, we can just walk down there. It's a small town, you know? So we walk down there and we see his art, and we met some of his friends and stuff like that. And they said they were going to just sort of jam we ended up at our veterinarian's house.
And then the next day, we get a phone call from Zane.
There's a show in New York in 2 weeks. You gotta come over and practice.
Yeah. Yeah, come over tomorrow. We got a gig in New York. I'm like, what? You're part of the band. You want to be part of the band? You're part of my band. I said, oh, okay, all right. I said, hun, we're part of Zane's band now.
neither one of them had ever sang country music or liked it particularly. So I asked them, hey, why don't you join my group? And they said, and Iris says, only if Liz can join, because they were a couple. And I go, sure, I don't care. I go, what do you sing? No, but I dance. I go, all right, that sounds like a plan to me. Whatever. So, next thing you know, we're up in New York City, you know, playing at the Rodeo Bar and Grill, you know, with these full-size stuffed buffaloes.
We played. The monitors weren't working. The lights are blaring. The people. It was a fun show though, and then we drove home, and we were then in Zane Campbell's band.
We became one of the gravel pit ramblers. Really, we did blacklight shows. We incorporated our visual arts into the performances and stuff. And he's just been a really good friend for a very long time.
I think of them as like one person almost. Like their art has come together as if they're like a unit that also operates separately. You know, they're like one person. Combined, you know, the art, and they also do separate things that are, you know, differently. But I can't. I've lived in New York City for 20 years. I lived up there for that long, and I think they're unique in the way they have fused their art together. I think what they do is, you know, real. They love art. They love doing it, and I've been, you know, when you live in New York City for 20 years and you're on the fringes of the art world, you really want to puke after a while. You know, it's all image. It's you know, fake. It's you know, it's like some. I don't even want to talk about it. That's the one thing that gets me pissed off. Anyway, their art. There's a lot of fun in it. A lot of fun, a lot of life, and like I say, they're like one person to me. One day I go into the bookstore and he goes, Zane, I got this guy you got to meet. I go, oh, God, now what? Well, it's a black guy who only does hillbilly music from the 40s and the 50s. And he only does Hank Williams Sr. and, you know, these old country songs. I said, well, gee, there must only be one black guy who does that stuff. You know, I mean, that's not a very popular thing to be doing, you know, but sure enough, he brings him into the bookstore. He's going, you're cheating, heart. So I go, hey, why don't you join the group? So he joins the group. Liz and Iris in the group. We're all playing the Rodeo Bar and Hill Country and this country bar and that country bar. But it was this group that just looked very peculiar. It was just a strange mix of people who you would, watching our band, you would think like, how did these people even meet each other, let alone be playing in this like hillbilly band? And it sounded like old time country music. It wasn't like Nashville. It didn't sound anything like modern country. Like none of that stuff. I don't like any of that stuff. We were doing this old hillbilly stuff, but we looked like we were all from different planets. And it was all because of this English professor who he really got a kick out of mixing up weirdos. You know, he got a kick out of mixing us all up. Like, why the hell would you introduce me to Liz and Iris and Sporty Dave and think that this was going to be some kind of cool country band thing? It's like, what are you? He's an old Jewish guy from Yorkville, New York City. You know, like, where do you get these ideas? You know, he thought it was hilarious. We would like rent a bus and go to New York, and everybody would get plowed on the bus, and he would go along, and I mean, he introduced us to some more freaks who were like even weirder. Remember the old guy who was like in his 70s, who was Chet? Chet was the worst one. He had like one of the biggest collections of mandolins in the country. The Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York did a display of some of his mandolins, so you know what they look like. And he's got this house out in the country, and he's this old guy, and you know, Richard Beards thought that would be a great addition to Zane's band. You know, at this point, you know, the English professor is basically our manager. He's the one like doing this crazy thing. And if you saw one of the shows, they were about like vaudeville. It was like comedy almost. We're goofing on each other. Chet was drunk at every single show. Chet, and he'd be in his 70s. He's in his 70s at the time, and he'd be drunk playing like a whole different song from us. He'd be playing like, you know, some different tune on a different instrument that he shouldn't have been playing on. Anyway, we just had this funny, it was like almost a comedy group in a way. But the music was country, and we took that part of it seriously. I mean, I enjoyed it anyway, and we only stopped doing it a few years ago. We had a few deaths in the group. The banjo player, he died. Chet somehow is still alive. I don't know how his liver has withstood this. He would start out in the morning drinking whiskey for breakfast. You know, this guy Chet with the mandolin collection, living in this colonial house. His wife is buried in the yard. You know, she had died decades earlier, and all her oil paints are still set up for her next painting. You know, it's like she didn't leave. There was cobwebs everywhere on her brushes. And it was like this peculiar Dickensian sort of scene. You know? And that's where we would rehearse. We'd go to this old colonial farmhouse and rehearse, you know, in the barn sometimes, or in the house. And anyway, that's the story of the, and we were called the Gravel Pit Ramblers. And that was our, you know, we played in D.C., I believe. We played in New York several times. Played in Philly, played in Wilmington. That was too much material. Perfect. I felt like I rehearsed that and then performed it improperly. One day I showed up late to work and I went home early and I composed a song. It goes kind of like exactly like this. Oh well, the day goes quicker when you come in late and leave early. Leave early. Said the day goes quicker when you come in late and leave. About 11, take a 2-hour lunch. About 3 to beat the rush, and the day goes quicker like this, and that's long enough. Surely, Boston like it when you come in late and leave early. Leave early. Said the Boston like it when you come in late and leave. But he knows, and you know, some secrets of his. The madness rub is domestic bliss, and the bottom. Everybody don't say shit. I said the day goes quicker when you come in late. Just won the lottery. Not what I do. I gotta apologize to the girls. I didn't realize they didn't know that second tune.
Oh, we just haven't heard it in a very hot minute.
You never cared for fame and fortune. Turned it down all the way. Why did you ever change your name all the way? Why did you ever change your name? Change your name all the way. Why did you ever change your